From unsolved mysteries to unexplained phenomena, from comedy gold to relationship fails, Amazon Music's got the most ad-free top podcasts, included with Prime. Because the only thing that should interrupt your listening is, well, nothing. Download the Amazon Music app today.
Hello to everybody who is actually saving up to go back to school. It's Beautiful Anonymous. 1 hour, no phone call, no names, no holds barred.
I'd rather go one-on-one. I think it'll be more fun, and I'll get to know you, and you'll get to know me.
Hi everybody, Chris Gethard here. I know not everybody enjoys the long intro. If you want to skip about 8 minutes ahead, that'll put you right towards the end of the intro. Enjoy the call. Hi everybody, my name's Chris Gethard, and welcome to Beautiful Anonymous, the show where we look at the human condition one anonymous phone call at a time. A show that Time magazine recently named one of the 100 best podcasts of all time, and a show that is coming up on its 500th episode. That's right, everybody. Episode 500 is coming in October. We're going to be taping it live, and we're going to air whatever we get. A lot of people would say what you do is you go and you tape a bunch, and you use the best one for episode 500. I say we go on stage the week before, we record it, we release it. That's what we're going to do. We're doing it at a live show in New Jersey, October 17th at Smodcastle Cinemas, Atlantic Highlands, New Jersey. I hope you'll buy tickets. punchup.live/Chris Gethard is where you can get those tickets. You can also get tickets for the upcoming editions of that show, which is the variety show I host in New York. September 24th, we're doing one. I'll also be coming and doing stand-up in Burlington, Vermont in November. And again, you can get tickets for all those shows. Most importantly, the Beautiful Anonymous episode 500 live taping at punchup.live/Chris Gethard. I'm so psyched for you to hear this episode. I will say it's the type of episode that makes me pretty proud of this show all these years in. Longtime fans of the show know one of the main things that will get me going is when people tell me about their professions, but also there's people who have things to say about life and people who have things to say about society and some of the issues facing society. And this one has all of it. You're going to want to buckle up. Some people are not going to like this episode because y'all have a problem with sex work. Some people are not going to like this episode because there is a figure central to the story. And I will warn you, the caller is very clear that there was an older man involved in this. It's not going to be easy for everybody to hear, but I will say this. Caller's also an extraordinarily smart person, as you'll come to learn. Well-spoken, thoughtful, has put in a lot of thought as to who she is, what she's done in life, as well as how to help other people, how to connect with other people in a community that surrounds sex work. And man, is this one a good illustration that conversations often need to be shades of gray, that there needs to be nuance, that things can't be boiled down to just one or two sentences that are easy to digest. And this caller talks about sex work, and I will tell you, in a way that I really appreciated, even though it's a very challenging thing to sort out. The caller says, not all sex work involves trafficking, but the caller's also very clear. She also doesn't buy into the dialogue, which I think was very present online in recent years, of sex work being this sort of neoliberal choice, which I point out ties into feminism, which I think we talk about how it can be, but it's often not. And man, we're living in a world where everything's commodified, gamified, where more and more people are getting into a gig economy where doing things for money, even if the things aren't necessarily leading to growth for humanity. You guys all know the types of thing I mean, that these things are starting to cross into sex work, OnlyFans and cam sites and all these things. This caller has lived it. This caller has really strong opinions on it, both negative. I don't know if the word regret is fair, but certainly some hesitations or misgivings might be the way to phrase it, but also stands by other people, tries to help them, recognizes a sense of community. It's not a simple, boiled down conversation. We've had a few other conversations on this topic in the history of the show, and I like them all. I think I stand by all the conversations we put out. I feel lucky to have had all the conversations I've had, but this one feels very much like it's 2025 and we've had years to see how this commodified, gamified, gig economy merging with a free-for-all of online fan base building, brand strategizing, how that goes. And man, this conversation feels just, like I said, there's layers to it. There's shades of gray to it in a way that I think you'll really enjoy. I want to thank everybody who's signed up at beautifulanonymous.com. Remember, if you sign up, you get your episodes ad-free. You get extra time with each caller, including 5 questions from a really massive fan-generated list, so we get to know the callers better. There's all sorts of stuff you get with it. I will say, in the 5 questions, you're not gonna believe me at first, because I'm sitting here telling you that a lot of this call focuses on sex work, and when I tell you we get more in depth about Gaza, Israel, Palestine than we have on the show, and I actually find myself really letting my guard down and explaining why we haven't gotten into it as much on the show. I kind of reveal there was a stretch where I'm pretty sure someone tried to get on the show and we had red flags, Andrea and I, and it's just a 2-person operation now. You know, we're not at Earwolf anymore. We're not on a network there where we can bounce this off of a number of people. It's just Andrea and I going, our gut instinct is that this might be propaganda. This might be someone trying to get on our platform for political purposes in a way that felt off. We kind of pull back the curtain on everything that happened with that. I talk about how on a recent episode when I referred to the situation in Gaza as a genocide, people got very upset with me, but on the same week I had people upset with me saying that I wasn't doing enough on Instagram. It's, again, shades of gray, nuanced conversations, a lot of interesting stuff on the bonus content this week. And again, you're going to say, wait, how did a conversation about sex work lead to a conversation about global politics? And you'll get halfway through this episode and go, oh, because this person's really smart, really thoughtful, really thinks about the world, has thought about her experiences in the world. And man, this one, it's good. You're going to like it. Enjoy it, everybody.
Thank you for calling Beautiful Anonymous. A beeping noise will indicate when you are on the show with the host.
Hello?
Hi.
Oh my God. Hi, Chris. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm having a good day. How are you?
Glad to hear it. I'm doing pretty all right. A little nervous, as I'm sure most people are, but I'm really excited to talk to you. Big fan, longtime listener of the show.
Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for supporting. No need to be nervous. I'm I also want to thank you. We're recording on a Sunday, which is rare for us, but I've been on vacation all week. And
Ooh.
yeah, I've all day today, I've just kind of been unpacking and playing with Cal. It's been a lovely day. And
Oh, awesome.
yeah, so it's just another part of a lovely day. You're good to go. No need to be nervous.
Awesome. Yeah, where did you go?
I went camping in New Jersey.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Went down to Cape May, which is truly, if you think Jersey is just like a septic, toxic trash heap, get your ass to Cape May. You'll have your whole opinion turned around. It's a beautiful place.
That's good to know, because yeah, New Jersey doesn't really get a very fair reputation. I've definitely driven through really beautiful parts of it and was just kind of surprised. I remember like the first time delving into those parts, because it really was quite beautiful. And I was like, wow, New Jersey gets so unfairly maligned. So
yeah, no, I'm single-handedly doing my part to try to let people know that the large majority of New Jersey is actually pretty beautiful.
yeah, I think because like the one time I actually stayed somewhere in New Jersey, it was Trenton. And just a funny little tidbit that I remember from that, I'd been in New York and had to drive back home and didn't want to pull an all-nighter. So I was with my ex at the time, and where we just decided to pull off and sleep in Trenton. And all of a sudden, there's a really bad smell. And I was like, did you fart? And he's like, no, babe, I think New Jersey farted. And that was my introduction to
fair.
New Jersey. But then once we headed south, it was quite pretty. So
I'll tell you what, though.
I always thought that was kind of funny.
I love that story, too. I love that one, too. I'm not offended. This is, you don't get the yin without the yang here in Jersey, you know?
Absolutely.
Now, what's up?
Well,
what would you like to talk about today?
Oh, Lord. Okay. I'm quite a yapper. Andrew was like, what do you have on your mind? I'm like, oh gosh, feels like now that I have to think of things, I don't know. It's hard to kind of access that, but I feel like that's always how it goes. That's definitely why talk therapy is tough for me, because it feels so easy to talk about all these things outside of a session, and then you sit down and they're like, what do you want to talk about? So that's my long-winded way of saying not 100% sure, but I did just move across the country and start a whole new life. So that was kind of a biggie. It was kind of a pretty
cool.
Jam-packed summer. So that's definitely a starting point. And I feel like things are finally, I actually tried to call in. I got the notification. It was like the day before I was moving. And I was really nervous about calling, but I thought it would be fun. And it was when things were kind of at the height of being super hectic. So now I'm kind of glad that one didn't work out, and I'm on once more settled in, because that was quite a hectic time. But I think that's the most current thing in my life right now.
Can I ask, when you say you moved from one section of the country to the other, how far are we talking?
Oh, coast to coast. I did a whole cross-country drive.
East Coast
4
to
days,
West Coast?
no less.
Did you move by yourself or with other people?
So I was very lucky that I actually did it in kind of a pretty inefficient way, because I had to pick up the car from where I was holding that back in my hometown. And so went back up and down the coast too, and then picked up my best friend. And she's someone I used to live with too. And so she was amazing and came on the drive with me and stayed with me for the first few days here to help me unpack and settle in. And we had a really, really good time.
That sounds awesome. I'm going to want to follow up on that. Was the move, you may have mentioned this, but I'm just catching on to all the information. Was the move prompted by work? Was it prompted by needing a life change?
I'm starting graduate school.
Oh, school.
Going back to school. So
are you excited about what you're studying?
About it. Yeah, so it'll be a pretty long program, like 5 years. So that's definitely a big life change because for the last 4 years, I've had I wasn't sure if I was going to talk about this on a podcast, but I don't know though. It is true to life. And it's been a very different lifestyle for the last few years. I've been working entirely on my own schedule and by myself and independently with a lot of flexibility, and that's through online sex work. So it's quite a shift now, and I think that feels like a bit of a crossroads. Not that they're mutually exclusive, but I guess, yeah.
Wow. I mean, we got ourselves a phone call here, that's for sure.
Oh boy, I hope it's entertaining.
Well,
I want to deliver.
No need. There's no pressure. There's no pressure. But you know what I'm immediately struck by is, there's kind of this old cliche with sex workers that I feel like predates online sex work, going back to like people, it's a very eye-rolly thing to say about strippers, of people saying like, oh, I'm doing this to pay for school. I'm doing this so I can go back to school. And it's kind of this thing of like, man, that's said a lot, and people roll their eyes and they're like, it's just kind of a common thing. It's not always true. But in your case, it did fund this, at least funded your life, if not helped fund going back to school.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very lucky that I've been able to, I have a stipend here. And unless they hear about this and then, I don't know, take it away, I don't think that's going to happen. But that is kind of
no, I hope not.
Some nervousness that I do have. But I mean, honestly, I feel like that would be a little, I know that's my anxious brain kind of like jumping to dark places, but
well,
yeah,
we'll keep everything vague as far as where you're living, what you're studying. We'll
appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll make sure we protect your anonymity in a real way. And if at any point you're like, I feel like we've pulled back the curtain on this enough, then we'll move on. It's totally up to you.
Awesome. But yeah, that's mostly what's been kind of going on, because I wasn't sure when I got in and moved. Like, okay, I know I'm going to be super busy now and might not even have time to keep this up. And so maybe I'll just quit. But at the same time, I've moved to a place. I actually got my place because of someone I met through who also does this, and have a lot of friends out here. So I was like, either I will totally quit or we'll have a lot more to do. So I kind of have no idea which direction how that cookie's gonna crumble yet. But it's at least been nice to reunite with those friends and finally live out here and get to see them again in person, spend time with them, because that's definitely been by far the best part of that experience, is the friends I've met in the same line of work.
I have to say, you strike me as like your personality, if I did not know what you've just revealed, you have a very wholesome personality, evidenced by the fact that you just used the phrase, this is not how the cookie usually crumbles. And that denotes sort of a sense of naivete. If I heard someone say that phrase just randomly in Jersey in passing, I'd go, oh, that's very sweet. That's a very sweet, maybe even naive person. You don't associate a personality, as far as the one I'm detecting from you right out of the gate, with online sex work. These things seem, again, a lot of these things, the whole world needs to start recognizing that sex work, A, exists, B, has always existed, C, I imagine a lot of people involved in it are people who don't fit the stereotypes of what we expect. That being said, your personality does not scream out sex worker to me. You don't seem like how the sex worker cookie usually crumbles. So I'm wondering how this came to be.
Yeah, it's kind of, I mean, I will kind of, as you said, there are tons and tons of types of sex work and people who do it. And so there really is no like archetype or anything, but I understand like in kind of pop culture and stuff, there are, assumptions that people make, or just like, personalities that they would more so assume. The way that I personally got into it is kind of complicated. I mean, everyone I know has kind of, I'm not unique in that. My story is not necessarily special or anything, but it definitely I've wrestled with, especially recently, like complicated feelings about how I got into it, because basically it was, I mean, it's funny that you mentioned like coming off a little with some naivete, because I would way more so describe that as sort of my personality or vibe, especially when I first entered into it. I first entered into it, oh my God, almost 6 years ago now, which feels crazy. And it was like right after, I don't know, tale as old as time. I was right out of college and 22 and started dating a dude in his 40s. And he was really encouraging of that. It wasn't anything that I'd ever considered, but it was something I was very into, and he kept bringing it up, and I'd be like, no, I don't know, or privacy or this or that. And instead of kind of respecting that and moving on, it was very much like, oh, well, if you do it this way, you can do this. Or what if you just did it? And finally, it just kind of gave in. And that was those feelings, the way I describe that, and like also just our relationship, because I got out of that last year, is that my frontal lobe came in kicking and screaming, and I had some realizations, and so separated myself from that person. But yeah, I mean, basically once I kind of tried it out, it just kind of became, then quarantine happened, and that just is when the really big boom of online sex work, it just kind of exploded. And so originally we were doing cam shows together, and eventually he told me about this other platform, and so OnlyFans. So I started that by myself, and have just been kind of in it since then. And definitely my feelings on it have evolved a lot over the years, and I've kind of arrived at a more, I know in the beginning, honestly, I was very much in the, oh my God, so empowering, taking my body back sort of, for lack of a better term, like neoliberal outlook of it that I don't really identify with now or think is super healthy. But of course, would never want to swing too far in the other direction, because we're on this side of the phone. We're very pro sex worker rights and pro protections and decrim and, anti-age verification laws that, really put a lot of sex workers at risk. So I've really ended up at a point over the years, also meeting other sex workers and having more community and learning about other people's experiences, where I just feel kind of neutral about it, honestly. And that is what some people say. I mean, it really is kind of a job like anything else. And I'll be super honest, like I engage in, like, I know the way I got into it was not the best. I didn't have I do wish I'd had more agency in that. But overall, like the form that I participate in is definitely a very privileged one. I do have a lot of physical safety. And so I think especially to where I've arrived with it, because I started volunteering last year at this sex worker rights organization that's amazing. I wish I could plug them, but I feel like that would be too identifying, but they're awesome. And ever since then, it kind of put just a lot of things into perspective. And so, because the things that the people that they would serve have gone through, they definitely, I don't know. I'm kind of rambling, but all that is to say, I feel kind of more just neutral about it now than I ever did. And that's kind of a weird place to be but yeah, I don't even know if I'll stick with it now or jump more into it, but that's the spiel, I guess.
That was a fascinating answer and very real. That's real stuff. I think you kind of noted that. I think in popular dialogues, I think sometimes in journalism representations, sometimes in pop culture representations, there's sort of these two ideas, and they're very, very opposed to each other, right? Of like, all sex work is human trafficking, or no, sex work is actually, as you said, this sort of neoliberal, feminist, progressive, black and white issue. It's thought of as those two things generally when discussed, either full on people being trafficked or total empowerment for a sex worker. And obviously not all sex workers are women, but very often the neoliberal sex work dialogue ties into sort of a feminist reclamation of women's bodies. And you just laid out a scenario that's very real life that has so many shades of gray. Like, I have to say right away, I know I speak on behalf of a lot of our listeners. As soon as you said, I was just out of college dating a guy in his 40s, I'm in my head going, well, here we fucking go. You know, like
I know. I could, and I just
you
moved
lived
to
it.
a city where he lives, actually. So
What's that?
That's the plot twist. The city I just moved to for school happens to be where he lives. So maybe there will be hopefully no more to come with that story. Yeah. But that's been another thing on my mind is, I really don't want to run into this person.
Yeah.
Being out and about.
That sounds like a, you know, you tell me, because like I said, so many shades of gray with your story, but it sounds to me like when you started this, you indicated that you maybe felt a little pushed into it or manipulated, and then eventually realized there are ways to do this that I'm comfortable. You're now sort of at a crossroads of going, do I want to continue doing it? Which feels like you said the word agency. You have so much more agency, but thinking back to those early days, I go, that guy sounds, you know, I don't want to use harsh language. I sit here, I go, there's some level of level of manipulation, some level of like, in the 70s, is this guy a pimp? You know, would we call this guy a pimp back in the day?
He did get mad at me for insinuating that once. That was quite a phone call because I didn't even say it. That was something that my friends had brought up. But yeah, it really is kind of a tale as old as time. Like, I know a lot of people who have a very similar entry into the industry, and it is complicated because at my at the nonprofit where I was volunteering, we did actually work with a lot of survivors of exploitation, and I would never ever dream of comparing like my situation to that. But of course, there is a level of, you know, some exploitation if someone is really indicating like, no, I'm not comfortable with this, and you don't disrespect that immediately. So I don't know. It's kind of, when you mention this like black and white of either there tends to be this neoliberal, like kind of white feminist, like, oh, hey girls, let's take our bodies back and smash the patriarchy. Like, that's an issue. Don't subscribe to that, or the glamorizing of it too. Because really it is only the most privileged people who will have those like influencers and stuff who already have like tons and tons of a huge platform, and those are really the only people who are going to benefit from that. And otherwise you're just kind of opening yourself up to a lot of risk and exposure. But then of course we do not ever want to conflate consensual sex work with human trafficking, because that's how you get horrible legislation that really puts sex workers in, especially in other forms of sex work that are more like police facing and stuff. That's how you put them in even more danger. And so it is, what we like to say at the nonprofit where I was working was that we support sex workers on a spectrum from choice to circumstance to coercion. And I really like that framework because I think it definitely sort of, it's very nuanced, and also we say that you can slide to different places along it. Like, and so that's kind of where I feel like I've ended up. It definitely felt maybe not as much like my wholehearted, independently of anyone else choice in the beginning. I definitely feel like there was like coercive behavior, whether through things that he said or also just by virtue of being like twice my age and someone that I, wanted to trust. But, eventually I've moved to a place where I guess it would on that spectrum where it is more choice, but I don't know. I've talked a lot about this with other friends here because they're also at a crossroads. And like one of my friends is in school as well to be, she's going into the psychology field, which is really exciting. And I have a lot of friends who are like, okay, I think I'm going to quit. But we all said this like years ago, like 3 years ago. And now I think it's kind of for me at least, like a sunk cost fallacy of like, well, okay, my digital footprint it's ruined already and this stuff is out there. So I might as well capitalize on this as long as I possibly can. And I know that might not necessarily be the healthiest way to view it, but that's just like the reality of kind of where my mind is and why I've sort of autopilot like kept it going. So, yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and pause there as the caller contemplates her future business choices. We will indulge in some capitalism. We got some ads. So happy to tell you about Audible and all the great stuff they're up to. Audible is a company that has had my back over the years. Newark, New Jersey-based Audible. Much love to Audible, and I want you to know about Audible's romance collection because it has something to satisfy every side of you. When it comes to what romance you're into, you can't be pinned down unless, of course, you are into being pinned down. They do have that. You can get that and so many other things. Here's your invitation to have it all. Fancy a dalliance with a duke, maybe a sexy billionaire, find a book boyfriend in the city, another on the hockey field, or if nothing on this earth satisfies, you can always find love in another realm, because we're talking about modern rom-coms from authors like Lily Chu and Ali Hazelwood, the latest romantasy series from Sarah J. Maas and Rebecca Yarros, and Regency favorites like Bridgerton and Outlander, plus all the really steamy stuff. Your first great love story is free when you sign up for a free 30-day trial at audible.com/beautiful. Ooh, I will tell you, I'm not somebody who sleeps great. It's very easy to wake me up. I wake up at a pin drop. I always have my to-do list in my head. I'm always thinking about the next thing that's coming up. And I'll tell you, I also have a dog who likes to sleep in my room, and he makes little barking noises as if he's outside, but he's just doing dog dreaming stuff, and it wakes me up every time, and I don't know why we got a dog. Anyway, one thing that helps me sleep through that, and through my anxiety, and through all the other issues I have, Boll and Branch sheets. It's legit. I slept on my Boll and Branch sheets last night. Man, these are soft sheets. They help you unwind. It's an incredible sleep situation. You get in the Boll and Branch sheets, your whole body relaxes. Boll and Branch's signature sheets are made free from toxins with the finest 100% organic cotton. They feel buttery soft to start. They get softer with every wash. They come with a 30-night worry-free guarantee. They are ethically crafted by expert artisans that earn fair wages, which is an incredibly important thing. Let's underline that. People getting fair pay for making these sheets. I love Boll and Branch. I've had the waffle blanket for a long while now. Really love it. And the sheets plus the waffle blanket is extraordinary. Just an extraordinary sleep experience. I really feel like it's the best sleep I've ever gotten is on these sheets. And I'm telling you, you're not going to go wrong. If you're in the market for sheets and you need to replace your sheets and you're always going to want to have extras in the linen closet, you're not going wrong with Boll and Branch. I'm telling you. And you guys know I don't say things like that unless I really need them. You'll feel the quality immediately. You will sleep better. And again, they're really well made and they don't degrade. They actually get softer as you break them in and as you wash them more. Love my waffle blanket. Love my sheets. You're going to love them too. Feel the difference an extraordinary night's sleep can make with Bowl and Branch. Get 15% off plus free shipping on your first set of sheets at bowlandbranch.com/beautiful. That's Bowl and Branch, BOLLANDBRANCH.com/beautiful. Save 15% and unlock free shipping. Exclusions apply. Cooler temperatures, they're rolling in right now. Fall is on the way. And as always, Quince is where I will be going for fall staples that actually last. From cashmere to denim to boots, the quality holds up. The price still blows me away. Quince has the kind of fall staples you'll wear nonstop, like super soft 100% Mongolian cashmere sweaters starting at just $60. Their denim is durable. It fits right. Their real leather jackets bring that clean, classic edge without the elevated price tag. What makes Quince different? They partner directly with ethical factories and skip the middlemen, so you get top-tier fabrics and craftsmanship at half the price of similar brands. Fall is here. I can't wait because if you've been listening to the show, you know the Quince sweaters that I wear are absolutely my go-to fall items. I feel good in them, I look good in them, and they've been holding up way better than other brands that cost a lot more. That's not a joke. Quince really is not messing around. Their stuff is well made and it lasts, looks good, feels good. It has become my go-to is sweaters from Quince. Keep it classic and cool this fall with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/beautiful for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/beautiful. Free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/beautiful. Thanks again to all of our advertisers. Let's get back to the phone call.
But that's just like the reality of kind of where my mind is and why I've sort of autopilot like kept it going. So, yeah.
Yeah, what a layered story, right? Because, again, I'm with you. There is a big part of me that goes, there are women in this world who go, if I can pay my mortgage selling feet pics, I'm going to take pictures of my feet. They're my feet. Fuck you. And I go, more power to you. But there, like you said, there's a point of privilege to that, right? There's that being able to make that decision wholly from a place of your unsullied opinion without influence from anyone else or your socioeconomic circumstances backing you into any corner. Like, there's privilege for that comes along with that being a 100% full agency decision someone gets to make for themselves. There's also
absolutely.
not every sex worker, even the police-facing ones, as you phrase it. You know, there's horrific stories that are very real of, you know, women from places like Korea or Eastern Europe who meet up with people who tell them they're going to go to America to be a house cleaner, and then their passport is taken away and they are shipped in a shipping container. And you go, these are some of the most horrific stories unfolding on Earth right now. And then there is everything in between, like a suburban kid with a good life deciding to sell feet pics with no face attached and having them hit big on OnlyFans, and someone showing up from a shipping container. And then there's everything in between of somebody who maybe comes from a place where they are a single mom and they are desperate to feed their kids. And yeah, they're making a choice, but would they make that choice if there wasn't real issues with class mobility and child care costs and all sorts of issues in this? That's not the same choice that the suburban feet pick person is making. There's people who probably are in relationships that are truly loving, whereas you mentioned in your case, there's a weird power dynamic because of age, or maybe people who like to do, you know, like it starts with, we do tons of drugs together and go to festivals and we like.
Yeah, that was also
right?
a factor.
There you go. And like at a certain point, like, hey, we like to party anyway. And if we're going to Burning Man and Bonnaroo and dropping tons of Molly and winding up in like somebody's tent in a touchy-feely sort of group sexy situation and figuring out that we have some different limits, or perhaps what some people might call some kinks. Like maybe if we're so comfortable sexually and we need the money to pay for this party lifestyle, we just lean into it. And then in your case, you go, well, when you've said no 10 times and then the 11th time is a maybe, even you, it sounds like, are left to wonder, was that maybe born out of me actually considering the idea, or was that maybe a little bit of, will you just shut up if I say maybe? And now the momentum's rolling down the hill. It's such there's such a vast and varied world surrounding sex work now. I've read up on enough of it to know that your story is not uncommon, although it is hard to hear about the influence of this guy that you're now still like, and now I'm back in the same city as him and I don't love that feeling. I'm someone who sits here and I goes, I think sex work shouldn't be demonized. I don't think it should be stigmatized. I think it's a thing that happens. I think that supporting sex workers will lead to a lot less of the stories of people having their passports stolen from them and being shipped around the world. I think that it will make it so that people feel less fear to go get STD tests, feel less fear calling the police when they run into maniacs. Let's face it, how many serial killers are out there killing sex workers historically, going back to Jack the Ripper, probably even before, right up to the Long Island serial killer who got caught a few years ago, right?
Yeah, there were some people I don't know them super well personally, but there were some people that I don't know, were probably connected on social media or something that I saw, I think had contact with that guy personally, which is terrifying.
That's
wild.
And but you go, hey, if you tell people that they're doing something shameful and they're doing something illegal, then guess what? They're not going to call the police and involve them in this. And it's sadly, historically proven to make sex workers, especially when you start to look into sex workers of color, trans sex workers, you start to realize, well, you're making this lifestyle a hunting ground for predators of all sorts, from literal killers to traffickers to manipulators to persistent boyfriends who give you drugs and ask you questions over and over and over again. These are all on some level predators dancing around. So in that sense, I am very much of, we've got to destigmatize this world and protect the people in it.
Definitely. And that's why we, in a lot of circles I'm in, support decriminalization. Fervently and push for decrim legislation, because time and time again, what I was kind of doing more so at the organization I volunteer at was, my background is in research, and that's what I'm doing now. So I would kind of help with the research leg of things. And so a lot of what I was doing was looking into different forms of policy and legislation and what actually in the literature has been proven to keep sex workers safe. And time and time again, it's decrim. And so, definitely good to advocate for full decriminalization.
I'm just going to be open. People on this show have often applauded me because they're like, there's a lot of topics you tend to know a little bit about. I tend to know at least enough to have a conversation about a lot of things. I soak up info. So I'm not going to pretend. There's not, especially guys, I'm aware that Chatterbait is a website. I'm aware that there's a big culture.
My origin story.
I was wondering when you mentioned cams, I go, but listen, I've been on Chatterbait. I'm not trying to give Chatterbait a plug here necessarily. They can contact the ad sales team for that. But I'm aware that I'm aware that on Reddit, there's a real culture of what appears to be exhibitionism or body positivity, but that really exists to get people to click through on profiles that then quickly become sex work. Sex people, some people outright on OnlyFans or on ChatterBait. Some people who are like, I'll ship you panties in the mail. If you send me pictures of you naked, I'll tell you what I think. Like, there's a lot of sites that I think for a while, and you tell me what you think of this, I was able to sit here and go, well, if this is a Reddit user or someone who has signed up for a ChatterBait account, there was a part of me that for a while was like, I feel okay about that as far as being somebody who has glanced at porn in my life, as have we all. Let's stop pretending. Where I go, well, this at least seems like it's empowered by the user signing up to do it, and therefore I feel like there's less issues than like a Pornhub or a YouPorn where you hear all these stories about that sleazy world of pornography. But I have started to really think, I don't think we can rely on that dialogue. I don't think we can claim like this is like the organic cage-free eggs version, like the grocery store. Like this is the organics aisle of the I don't know that that's the case anymore. You go on ChatterBait and you go, how many times, not that I've been there, it's not like I'm visiting ChatterBait every time a day, but you go, you realize this is someone from a country in South America or Eastern Europe, and I'm sitting here and I'm going, I think there might be a dark side to these worlds where they appear to be very driven by people actively signing up, and I get the sense that there is probably as much darkness driving some of these people in these worlds as any other world of sex work. Am I wrong about that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I have such complicated feelings on that also have changed and developed over time, because ChatterBait and Reddit were my stomping grounds for a minute there. And Reddit is actually where I met like some of my friends out here. So that's kind of a wholesome outcome. But on the one hand, yeah, I think that generally like people on those platforms, especially compared to, mainstream. And I'm not even someone who can really speak to like other forms as much, like working in mainstream, because I don't have that firsthand experience. But with these other platforms, you do tend to overall like have more say and more agency, and you tend to, run it yourself rather than being beholden to like a manager or something. But at the same time, like I remember when I first, met my ex and he was telling me about, Reddit and ChatterBait and stuff, because I really wasn't very even aware of it. I never consume porn, actually. I never ever do. I don't watch anything.
Well, now I just look like a pervert.
Like,
you're like,
no,
actually, I'm like,
no.
Everybody looks at it from time to time. Let's be honest.
No,
you're
they
like,
do. They
you're
do.
like, actually, I didn't, though.
Do.
You're the.
No,
that's
I'm like
on
the
you,
most asexual online worker ever. I joke, but like, no, I don't know. This has never been my thing. Personally, no judgment to anyone who does. In fact, I very much, and encourage it in safe ways and like, but yeah, with that, what I'll say is like, absolutely. I think that OnlyFans, like when it boomed in 2020, like it opened the door to, first of all, like it brought sex work like into just, especially like in quarantine, like I'd say more of the zeitgeist, and had more people were talking about it. I think there was less stigma for sure. And so it helped, or it was good in that respect. And you can kind of know, you can have more certainty that you are supporting someone directly and have more assurance that, like, I don't know, whenever I will see those "Am I the asshole" posts that are like, my boyfriend is talking with OnlyFans girls, I think he's cheating. I find that personally just like, I always find that kind of funny, because I'm like, oh, he's not cheating. This is just like watching porn like anything else. In fact, I have applaud him for actually paying for it. And like, I do think that's like the ethical thing. Of course, not trying to step on anyone's personal boundaries in their own relationships. That's their own thing, of course. But yeah, so I don't know. But I tend to personally, have more respect for people, or not like I disrespect certain people. I don't want to make it sound like that, but it sounds good to hear people are, happy to pay for this and support someone directly rather than just like downloading leaks or going to, big porn sites. And so, but at the same time, like I remember, for instance, like when I didn't know about any of this world and I met my ex, he was telling me all about it. And he was like, yeah, this stuff, I used to watch porn on, Pornhub and stuff, but then I saw this documentary about how bad the mainstream porn industry is. And that's why I like Chatterbait, because I know that the person on the other side of the screen, I can only enjoy it if I know that they're like, fully consenting to it and have full agency. And like, I was kind of naive and I was like, oh my God, he gets it. Like, oh, this is so, what a feminist. Haha. I don't know. It's silly looking back at it now. Cause, because on the one hand, like, yeah, you do have more of that assurance for sure, but he definitely wasn't like, such an ally for that, like, way of thinking, especially when not, respecting someone saying like, hey, I'm not comfortable with getting into this. Like, it was kind of, I don't know. And I wasn't the first either. So,
really?
Yeah.
Oh, bombshell.
I definitely was not the first super young woman, and I was not the first that he introduced into camming either. So, I'm like, I hope he doesn't hear this, but no. I know he liked Broad City. We used to watch it together.
Oh, great. But well, he is a feminist. He is a feminist, so.
Yeah.
There was a certain era where you could be a sleazy man who liked Broad City and Chatterbait, and that made you a feminist. And
that's my ex.
There you go. But it's so eye-opening, right? To go, this is a thing he had done before. He commodified sex on some level. Is this a fetish for him? Is this a business for him? Either way.
I do know that he was pretty into like filming, and I guess maybe the way I've thought about it is maybe some form of fetish. There are a lot of guys, because I know other girls in a similar boat, and it's, guys who like have this thing of like, I want to be the one who gets to fuck the cam girl. Like everyone else has to watch, but I get to be the one to do it. So sort of like whatever fetish that is.
And that ties into like 2020's everything live streamed, everything for clout online culture that's really dark. And all of it. All of it.
And that's how it boomed so much.
But also, let's also say this too.
City,
I want you to get your Broad City thought out, but I also just want to say too, one of the things I don't like about this, and again, I think you can feel, I'm not judging. I'm very, very fascinated by the story, but one of my problems with the way this went down, obviously the fact that it was a pattern of behavior with him, you had said no a bunch of times, that is one where you go, if that's a thing you're into and you bring it up once and the person says no, you let them bring it up again. If they say no, you walk away from that, I would think, forever. Or if you go, I really can't function in a relationship where we're not live streaming sex, like, then you go find a partner who is into it out of the gate. But you don't put pressure on that, obviously. Especially because there's another aspect of this too, which is, I want to at some point hear how much money you were making, but also, just based on, this guy, maybe he has a chiseled jaw and the greatest six-pack of abs and the most...
Oh, that is not even my type.
Maybe the most firm and mighty cock we've ever seen. These guys wouldn't make $1 if they couldn't convince women to go on the cams with them. And there's something awful about that as well. Now, you were saying Broad City. Finish your thought. I wanted to make sure I got that one out because I had to call that out.
You know what? That is such a good segue. I just mentioned, side note, that I'm lesbian now. And like the Broad City comment was going to be about my girlfriend, because I was telling her about going on the show, and she's not familiar with the show, although she will be now. And if you're listening, hi, I love you. You know that. But I was telling her about it. I was like, yeah, it's Alana's boss from Broad City, because I don't think maybe she's as familiar with your other work. I know you've done so many other awesome things.
No, you're picking the right
when I tell people
Venn
about
diagram.
Beautiful Anonymous, I'm like, guys, it's Alana's boss that she really stressed out. A lot of people tell me that they think I'm an Alana. I'm like, I love Alana in real life, but I know myself, and I'm more of an Abby. And it stressed me out to watch her stress you out on the show, honestly.
That's
like
fair.
Vicariously got stressed.
I have to say, never apologize for people not knowing who I am, but also your instinct to go with Broad City over anything else I've done. Like, you don't tell, let's be honest, you don't tell your lesbian girlfriend, oh, it's the guy from Class Action Park or from season 9 of The Office. If you're trying to just quickly shorthand explain who I am to a queer woman on any level, you start with Broad City. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We're both Jewish, too, so we loved watching Broad City together.
Jewish queer women, Broad City is the entry point by which they will know me, for sure. Well done. Smart choice. Well done. Let's pause. Having fun. Also, a lot of truth to what I just said. Anyway, we'll be right back. Delete Me makes it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. It's really scary out there, everyone. It's so much easier than you know, easier than ever to find personal info about people online. Your address, phone number, family members' names. It's all hanging out on the internet. This can have actual consequences in the real world, makes everyone vulnerable. With Delete Me, you can protect your personal privacy or the privacy of your business from doxing attacks before sensitive info can be exploited. The New York Times Wirecutter just named Delete Me their top pick for data removal services, and I can vouch for this, honestly. I have indicated on the show, I don't go into too much detail, but I have had a situation where things got really tense, where I felt like it was very important for the safety of my family that all this personal info not be floating out there. And there were services that I used, and I thought they did an okay job. Then I started using Delete Me. Delete Me found dozens of sites with personal info on them, removed it. I just the other day got my regular privacy update. They give you like the I think it's quarterly reports every couple months. And man, they went through dozens and dozens and dozens of sites, made sure that the info was staying off there, and anywhere they got added back on, they pulled it back down again right away. I have an active presence online. It's part of my work, unfortunately, but man, at times it's made me feel unsafe, and Delete Me makes me feel safer. As an individual, as a husband, as a dad, I can't thank Delete Me enough, and I'm telling you, there's a reason that Wirecutter named them the top pick. They're the best. Take control of your data. Keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me, now at a special discount for our listeners. Get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/beautiful and use the promo code beautiful at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is go to joindeleteme.com/beautiful. Enter code beautiful at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/beautiful. Code beautiful. Everybody's talking about weight loss meds. But these days, fewer people are talking about how hard they are to access. It's because Hers is changing that with transparent pricing, expert care, and a personalized plan that's actually built and priced for where you're at. Hers is transforming women's healthcare by providing access to affordable weight loss treatment plans that connect you with a medical provider who will work with you to determine the best treatment option for you. If you get prescribed, get medication as part of a doctor-developed weight loss program, complete with ongoing care, check-ins, dosage, and medication adjustments, access to 24/7 online support at no additional cost. There's no hidden fees. There's no membership fees. Weight loss by Hers is realistic, not restrictive. Hers provides access to affordable weight loss plans built around oral medication kits and GLP-1 injectable options, with oral medication kits starting at just $69 per month with a 10-month plan when paid up front. This is not cookie cutter care that forgets you. in the waiting room. It's your health and your goals put first with real medical providers, making sure you get what you need to get your results, all from the comfort of your couch. Whether you want to lose weight, grow thicker, fuller hair, or find relief for anxiety, Hers has you covered. Visit forhers.com/beautiful to get a personalized, affordable plan that gets you. That's FORHERS.com/beautiful. Forhers.com/beautiful. Weight loss by Hers is not available everywhere. Compounded products are not approved or reviewed for safety, effectiveness, or quality by the FDA. Prescription required. See website for full details, important safety info, and restrictions. Actual price depends on product and plan purchased. Thanks so much to all of our advertisers. Now let's finish this phone call. Jewish queer women, Broad City is the entry point by which they will know me, for sure. Well done. Smart choice. Well done.
Definitely. Big fan.
You nailed that one. I mentioned it before. I get the sense that a lot of people who sign up for online sex work think it's going to be just a cash cow. My guess is that, like anything else, especially in the online world, not so much. That a lot of people probably don't make that much and realize it's not worth it financially. When it breaks, though, I think it can break pretty big. Financially, was this part of why you stuck with it?
Oh, definitely. And, and I'll be honest too, I'm someone who, I did not do this for survival. So I'll put that out there with full disclosure. But yeah, it's once you do, cause I had some friends in the pandemic too, who just kind of got into it with I'll make an extra few bucks a month or whatever. And then you don't really expect anything to happen. But then once it does, it is kind of hard to turn your back on. I'm small potatoes boutique shop compared to some people that I know who I know of some girls who bring in $250,000 a month through OnlyFans, but then that's the thing though, is then you have people, the big influencers kind of over glamorizing it on TikTok and stuff. And there's a whole dark side to that with referral links, which are really pyramid schemey at best and kind of trafficky at worst. You get these really big influencers who already have a huge platform, and that's how, because that's the thing, a lot of people think with online sex work that you'll just take some feet pics and that's it. But no, it's a marketing job. That's entirely what it is. Honestly, it kind of even feels to me like divorce from sexuality in my personal experience. And so that might not be typical, but it just feels like marketing with with an alter ego that you're not really attached to. And it's the people who will join and kind of not really understand how much of marketing it is that, will then put all this content out there that could, be risky or, but then, they say the average OnlyFans creator only makes $200 a month. And so, you really have to, there's a lot of work, especially on the front end, that has to go into building up these platforms. And of course that also means exposure. And I've definitely, for someone who's as nervous about people finding out as I am face out on social media, and I've definitely had people recognize me, and I've had some issues with that. I mean, I've been lucky to mostly be pretty safe, but I have had dudes from high school slide into my DMs and be weird about it. Or I had this one guy who tried to buy something from me, and I could tell, I knew who this guy was because he was dumb about it. And he because he messaged me on Facebook at the same time on his real account too. And he was just hey, what's up? Just wanted to say hi. I'm I have not talked to you in 12 years. And last thing I ever knew about you was you cheated on my friend in high school and we're bad at fingering. So why are you talking to me? I did not say that, but that is what I knew in my head and my heart of hearts. And so when he messaged me trying to buy an explicit, sex tape, I figured I knew from his username, because he made it very close to his real name. I was yeah, it says in my profile, if you know me in real life, you don't have my consent to be here. I just need to verify that I don't know you. And he was like, yeah, no, you don't. I'm ready for the tape. And I was like, okay. So I pulled a Reddit mod move, I know. And I asked if he could send a selfie with a crumbled up piece of paper with the date on it or something. And he was like, yeah, no thanks. Could you just send me a refund? And OnlyFans doesn't allow refunds, actually. And so, like, you can't do it. You have to refer someone to support. And so I messaged him and told him, well, you know, if you are who I think you are, if you just tell me on another platform like Facebook Messenger, if you just admit it, we can figure something out, and I'll Venmo you. Don't worry. I can't do anything with giving you a refund myself. And he was like, because he'd been denying it, that he knew me this whole time. And then finally he admitted it on Messenger. He was like, hey, yeah, I'm sorry. I was just nervous. Can you send the Venmo? And I was like, no. I was scared. Honestly, at first, I was like, I don't know, before I was kind of better at boundaries. I was a little nervous, like, oh, if I don't, is he going to like dox me to people? Because we know a lot of the same people in the community. And then, I don't know, it was just like, no, this is someone who doesn't respect consent at all. Like, I'm not going to mess with this anymore. And so I sent this long message about, you know, consent and consent violations, and then blocked him. So, yeah. But yeah, all that is to say, whenever I've had someone approach me saying that they want to get into it, I've always been very honest with them about, you know, at least in my experience, like the risks that can come from it. I'm like, be prepared if you're going to do this, especially if you're not someone who necessarily like needs to. And of course, I know that there are tons of sex workers out there who aren't survival sex workers. I'm privileged to be one of them. And I think there are a lot of people in advocacy circles who want to say, you know, it can just be anyone who goes into it. We don't want it to just be seen as something people only do out of desperation, because part of destigmatizing it is showing that it can be, you know, something for anyone from any background. And while that is true, it's just like, you also don't necessarily want to open yourself up to, especially if you're young or this or that, like, to just tons of risk. And like, I've had people ask me about it, and I've just been like, be prepared for things like your whole family finding out. Are you prepared for that? Like mine did. Like that was a whole thing. Jewish parents finding out about that.
How'd that go?
Oh my God, it was so bad, Chris. It was so bad. We're cool now, kind of. Oh, I hope they don't hear this, but they found out, and they hired a private investigator to find my stuff. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was the whole thing. I have a twin who, you know, is disabled and needs a lot of like 24/7 support. And, you know, he's my favorite person in the whole world, and I'm going to be his guardian when the day comes and they threaten to take guardianship away if I didn't quit, which that wasn't cool either. And it was, we did not speak for a while. It was not good. And I think they even admitted to having someone that they hired catfish me to see how far I would go with what I was willing to do. So that was not great. But I mean, that's the thing though. Like, I will say, for better or for worse, it was a sucky time, but I definitely learned how to, for maybe the first time with my parents, like develop pretty hard boundaries. So that's something I feel like at least was a positive that came out of that experience. And we're in a good place. We're in a great place now. Like I would never want them to hear this and, you know, feel like have me, first of all, sorry guys, if you do hear this, that I brought this to the world. And, but
they
yeah,
must fucking hate your ex-boyfriend, huh?
Oh, they do. They really do. They never met him, by the way. We were together for 5 years, and they never met him because I was living in another city, and I don't know. He never had interest in it. And,
yeah, I was going to say, you were living in another city, and also your boyfriend, who was twice your age and pressuring you into something that you didn't want to do, at least at first, didn't want to have to look your parents in the eye. Also that. This guy.
Oh yeah, and he was like, well, they wouldn't like me, and they blah blah blah, and I mean, this guy, like, I'll just be super honest, like he just didn't have interest anyway, because he used to tell me in the beginning, like, well, I don't really, we don't have a future, and I don't really like love you in that way, so that's why I don't ask about them, or that's why I'm not interested in meeting them, and like that was in the beginning, so it just, I don't know, this was someone who like didn't really like unprompted like ask about like things going on in my life. I mean, I'm a talker. I'd bring them up myself anyway, but it's like, for example, like my brother, who has a lot of like health challenges, like I think in 5 years, even when my brother was like in the hospital and stuff, would just never ask how he was doing, like once.
Yeah.
So like,
nope.
That's I'm sure the type of like guy in the arts who's like, yeah.
Complete narcissists. Yeah.
But I will say with my parents, I don't want to be wholly negative. The way I've like conceptualized it now is that as not great as that was, because it was really terrible at the time, especially in quarantine. Because my brother is nonverbal. If I can't go no contact with my parents, because that would necessitate not being able to see my brother, and that's a non-negotiable for me. I will never, no matter what happens, do that. But the way I sort of see it is, it wasn't great what they did, but they're older, and they were operating on just a different conception of the world and what it means to try to protect your kid. And like, I mean, my mom, the way I see it is like, my mom went to high school at a time where she wasn't allowed to wear pants. Of course, she's not going to be thrilled about this, and, is going to see it a certain way. But we did get to a point where it just kind of became eventually like a don't ask, don't tell. And my mom has even gotten to a point where she's even like curious about it, or like understanding about it. And she was excited when I got into, the volunteer position within the sex work advocacy world. And that's something I never would have expected. Like, my mom supports decrim now, and I was like, whoa, that's amazing. So I'm very, very grateful for her. Now, I wouldn't say support, like she definitely doesn't love that this is still a thing, but I mean, I do feel grateful that I can like actually feel okay going home now, and know that it's not necessarily going to be like a huge problem every time.
Yeah. Again, real life answer.
Yeah. And I don't know. And definitely like, sorry, go for it.
No, please.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think too, like, because I know my dad wasn't really, he still doesn't quite get like the volunteer position, and would make some kind of comments about like, oh, you're doing this or blah, blah, blah. But my mom was definitely a lot more interested about it and more supportive about it, and open to learning about why, this legislation and these policy decisions are so important. But it also, like, that position came at a time, I think she was also just relieved that I was like getting out of bed, because last year is honestly like, I'd say the hardest one of my life. I would not try to exaggerate, but I'd say that one was 2024 was quite a doozy. And the first half of it was spent like, I'll be so real with you, watching Degrassi in my bed for 8 hours a day. And so when I finally, it was like, okay, I need to do something else. And so that's when I found that position, and would actually have a reason to like get out of bed. And it was really healthy. And I think my mom was definitely grateful for that. But yeah, last year I went through my first grief, and it was a big one and sucked, but yeah.
I mean, I'm so sorry you went through that.
Definitely helped.
Yeah, I'm sorry you went through that. I can also see how that sense of purpose, the volunteerism, helping people and connecting with people who you've met through this, realizing that some of you have similar stories. I sit here, I go, I see why you have some, there's been a part of me this whole time going, well, if you're heading to grad school, why not say clean break? I'm done with that. But I go, there's a real sense of community there, and I get how that's hard to walk away from, especially if it gave you that sense of purpose. I also go, we are going to keep it vague as per your request, but I go, if you're in some sort of 5-year grad school program, you're headed towards something pretty
starting
great.
A PhD program.
You're going to be a doctor in half a decade. And
if I stick with it, which I hope I do, I got very, very lucky, especially in this current climate with grant cuts and everything, that they had a spot. And so I'm really excited about it. And yeah, again, hope they don't hear this and see me differently if so. But again, that's probably my anxious brain. But I am really excited to get back into the research world because, my background before was like disability research, and which of course you could probably gather like comes from a very personal place.
Yeah.
And that is what I hope to do with this. And I don't know. I kind of pivoted a little bit, maybe, I don't know, with what I want, where I want to end up with it and the type of research that I want to do, because like my brother, he is autistic. So that's a lot of like my background is in that type of research, but he also has epilepsy. And honestly, that's been even tougher just with the falls. It's very dangerous. Like this year, he had a really, really devastating fall. Like he still hasn't recovered from, and that was January. And that was actually going back to the grief thing. I was going to say not to trauma dump, but I know that's kind of a little bit what this sort of show can be for sometimes. Although if I get too dumpy with it, definitely feel free to interrupt me. But yeah, like he had that accident this year due to a seizure, and it was coming right up on the 1-year anniversary of me losing someone who was also to epilepsy. My first ever like long-term relationship, my first love, died last year due to complications with epilepsy. So I'd already been considering before that maybe pivoting into like that type of research instead, and like supporting people living safely with epilepsy. But especially after that really kind of like, I don't know, I'd say that solidified that motivation. I don't know if that's where I will end up, who knows, but at least as of now, that's something that I'm really, really interested in.
It's the twists and turns of this call, hearing, so much of the fire that's lit in you based on your brother, hearing about the loss you've had, hearing about how it's motivating you. I will also say, and this is sort of a joke, sort of not, but just based on stuff you mentioned, I grew up Catholic. People on this show have heard me unwrap that for years. I will say I grew up in a town and I went to school with a lot of Jewish kids, so I know Catholicism and Judaism have some real stuff in common, especially as far as parenting techniques and our relationship with guilt. There's a lot, but I'll say this.
Oh, yes, Jewish guilt.
Oh, yeah.
Very much a thing.
Well, I also will say this. I am familiar enough, having grown up with a number of Jewish friends who I went to school with start to finish, to know while your parents had a stretch there where they were hiring private investigators to see your limits and had to relearn trust in you, however you would want to phrase it, comfort, you're going to get a doctorate. And if there's anything that will bounce you back with Jewish parents who are overseeing you.
Oh, yeah. They were really relieved.
Goddamn doctorate. This might get you back to square one.
Hey, maybe. I don't know. Jewish guilt runs deep, but we'll see. No, yeah. Well, we'll see. I am really excited about it. It's just weird to like talk about both in the same sort of conversation, because they're worlds that I've like tried usually, and in such a public way. It's of course my own decision to do that. It's just, I don't know. I'm someone who tends to be very fractured with those things, but I don't know. Cause I thought about coming on here before and I was like, well, I wouldn't want, people from this world to know about the online stuff. And I wouldn't want online stuff people who might recognize me from there to know all this stuff about my personal life. But I think, I mean, as you said, it is real. It is just kind of life. And, yeah, it's something I'm open about enough with like people that I trust in like my real life and friends and stuff. And, yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm kind of tired in a way of having to sort of, I don't know, be so nervous about these things. Because I kind of tell people that when they go into, if they're asking me about going into online work and stuff, is like, you really can't be a super anxious person about privacy. And like I am, and yet do it anyway. And it's like, you can't do both. You're going to just be like anxious about it. You have to either just like be anxious about privacy and not do it, or do a different version of it, or just be the type of person who's like, fuck it, I don't care what anyone thinks. If you mesh those together, you will just be a little neurotic. But I mean, neuroticism was something that's very inherent to me anyway. So we're soldiering on.
Well,
neurotically.
I also have to say too, I'm really so happy that you chose to call up and talk today. I also think too, legitimately, one aspect of living in 2025, there are so many people doing this that I actually don't think you're particularly easily identifiable outside of people who know you already. This is a story that's increasingly common. And one thing that I'm very, very struck by as our time runs out here on the free feed, I go, one thing that I'm very struck by is that a lot of times when people have lived a life you've lived, I think one of the cliches about sex work is you go, well, you have that in your past, but you are someone who has that in your past, is thinking very hard about all the implications of that, but it is not precluding you from also having a future. And sometimes I think that's the cliche too. Well, that's who you are. That's who you were. That's who you'll always be. In 5 years, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to be a doctor who also happened at some point to have done some online sex work, but one doesn't negate the other. One doesn't preclude the other. And I think that that's really impressive. And you're, like I've said from the start,
Thank you.
From your tone of voice in the beginning, I was like, well, you defy the expectations of what people expect. You continue to do that throughout this entire call. And I think you've expressed a bunch of times of like, I hope this person doesn't hear it. I'm like, first of all, not as many people listen to this show as they used to. Second of all, I don't think you're particularly identifiable. And third of all, I actually think you have spoken for yourself and a few different communities that you're a part of along the way, where I think hearing how much you've had to think of, I hope so no one finds out, where I go, you should actually, I think, be immensely proud of so many things that you've said today in terms of
thank you, Chris.
how you thought about how things went, but also how you are, again, one of the many layers to you. And our time is up, so we'll continue talking in a second. But I sit here and go, you're someone who says, I don't know that I always buy the empowered neoliberal take on sex work. But at the same time, you're someone who then went into the nonprofit world to sort of sort out, well, what is the reality? How do we help each other? How do we make each other safer, taken care of, connected, community-driven? I think there's a lot to be proud of here. And I hope you hold your head up high.
Thank you, Chris. I really appreciate it. I also can't believe the time is already up.
Yeah, it flew by.
Went by really quickly.
It really is. Like, it was a hell of a conversation. And I think really, really, there's so many people living their version of it, whether it's personally or through their family members or through people in their community. And I think you spoke both to your lived experience, but also your shit. You clearly are a researcher at heart who then dives into the nonprofit world, it was great. And I'm hoping you have a few minutes to hang out behind the paywall so we can talk a little more and also do 5 questions that don't focus so much on this one aspect of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm super down.
Caller, very sincerely, thank you. That conversation was an incredible conversation of your personal story, but also you're a very smart person with a lot of thoughts on the world you've landed in. Thank you for sharing them. What a phone call. Thank you to Andrea Quinn for producing the show. Thank you to Shellshag for our theme music. If you want to know more about me, including my live show dates, punchup.live/Chris Gethard. Got a voicemail line. It's 973-306-4676. We're on Instagram at Beautiful Anonymous Pod. Don't forget to join the Facebook group, Beautiful Anonymous, the community. This week on Beautiful Anonymous Plus, here's some of what you'll get from the 5 questions. Would you rather know how you're going to die or when you're going to die?
I know where this comes from. This is a meme. I've seen this meme. It's just, I'm going to reveal how chronically online I am if I haven't already. But this is a meme. This question is based on a meme of a picture of Mary-Kate and Ashley Olsen as adults. And the caption says, one of them looks like they know how you're going to die and the other looks like they know when. I've seen this. That's so funny. Whoever submitted this, I wonder if that's where you got this. Or maybe I'm just revealing how painfully chronically online I am.
Don't forget to sign up for Beautiful Anonymous Plus at beautifulanonymous.com.